Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're jumping into Surah Al Hijr, the 15th chapter of the Quran. It's this really powerful chapter that kind of weaves together these incredible stories of creation, rebellion, and divine justice. But they all circle back to one profound central promise. All right, let's get into it.
So, right from the get-go, the surah makes this incredible declaration. Now, the reminder here, that's the divine message itself, the Quran. And this isn't just some throwaway line, no. This is the foundational theme for the entire chapter. It's a promise, right? A promise of preservation, that this message is going to endure, that it'll stay unchanged and protected no matter what. This one verse sets the stage for absolutely everything that follows.
So, with that huge promise of preservation established, the surah immediately throws us into the core conflict. It talks about this recurring pattern that you see all throughout history. A divine message gets revealed, and what happens? Almost inevitably, it's met with mockery and disbelief. The text tells us that no messenger ever came to a people except that they ridiculed him. This tension, this push and pull, is really the engine that drives all the stories we're about to explore.
Okay, so to really get to the bottom of this conflict, the surah takes us all the way back. Like all the way back to the very beginning. We're not just talking about the first human, but the very first act of rebellion, which kind of set the precedent for all the rejection that would come later.
You know, what's so fascinating here is how specific this description of our origin is. Humanity, represented by Adam, is created from these really humble materials, sounding clay, from altered black mud. It's a very earthy, very grounded beginning. But then, it's elevated. It's infused with the divine spirit. And right after this, God commands the angels to prostrate. Now, this wasn't about worshiping Adam, not at all. It was an act of obedience to God, a recognition of this unique creation.
And this is where we get the very first no. While all the angels obey, one being, Iblis, who is a jinn made from fire, he refuses. And this just brilliantly lays out the symbolic clash at the heart of the story. You have Adam, whose origin is clay, representing humility. And then you have Iblis, whose origin is smokeless fire, which he sees as way superior, and that's what sparks his arrogance. And there it is. That's the justification Iblis gives for his disobedience. You could almost say it's the first instance of bigotry, right? A judgment based purely on your origins, on what you're made of. He literally says the fire he's made from is better than the clay Adam is made from. So his rebellion doesn't come from some deep theological disagreement. Nope, it's born from pure, simple pride. And this act is what sets him up as the one who will try to mislead humanity.
So after setting up this huge cosmic conflict between obedience and arrogance, the surah says, okay, let's see how this actually plays out in the real world. It gives us a series of historical case studies, these stories of past messengers and their communities to show us the very real consequences of these choices.
The first story kicks off with a bit of a mystery. Prophet Abraham gets some visitors he doesn't recognize. They greet him with peace, which is good, but he still feels a little bit of apprehension. So who were these strangers who just showed up out of nowhere?
Well, it turns out these guests were actually angels, and they were on a dual mission. First, they had some amazing news for Abraham, who was quite old at this point. He was going to have a wise son. But their second reason for being there was much more serious. They were on their way to the town of Prophet Lot to carry out a divine judgment.
And the story pivots. We're now with Lot. The angels arrive in his city, appearing as handsome young men. Immediately, the townspeople rush to Lot's house, wanting to harm his guests. And this puts Lot in just an impossible position. He has a sacred duty to protect his guests, but he's completely powerless against the wickedness of his entire community.
Lot pleads with his people, but they refuse to listen. They're unrepentant. So the divine judgment is swift and absolute. The surah describes the city being literally turned upside down and then showered with stones of hard-baked clay. I mean, it's just this incredibly vivid and frankly terrifying consequence for a community that just would not turn away from its corruption.
You know, the story of Lot's people, it wasn't a one-off thing. The surah then zooms out to show that this is a historical pattern, and it uses the ruins of past civilizations as both evidence and a warning for the future. So the surah mentions the people of the wood pretty briefly, but then it focuses on the community that actually gives this chapter its name, the people of the rock, or Al Hijr.
And all of these groups, they share this one single fatal flaw. They were given clear signs, clear warnings from a messenger, and they all chose to deny them, to just cling to their own ways.
This line about the people of Al Hijr is so powerful. I mean, just picture this. A civilization so advanced and so strong that they could literally carve their homes right out of the mountainside. This wasn't just about shelter. This was a statement of power, of permanence. They truly believed that their own engineering and their material strength made them untouchable.
And yet, what good is a fortress made of solid rock against a divine decree? The Surah says that the shriek, this terrifying blast, seized them in the morning. All their power, their masterful crafts, everything they had built and earned was rendered completely useless in an instant. That feeling of security they had, it was just an illusion.
So, after hearing all these intense stories of judgment, you might be thinking the main takeaway here is just divine wrath. But the surah doesn't end there. It brings everything into this perfect, nuanced balance, explaining the ultimate purpose behind all these powerful warnings.
This, right here, is really the theological heart of the chapter. The prophet is told to inform everyone of these two realities that exist side by side. On the one hand, you have this infinite, all-encompassing forgiveness and mercy, and on the other, a punishment that is severe and painful. They aren't contradictory. They're two sides of the same coin, showing both divine compassion and absolute justice.
And this is the key takeaway. The point of these stories of destruction isn't to make people feel hopeless or despair. They're meant to be stark warnings, to clearly mark the path that leads to ruin. By showing how severe the consequences are, the surah is actually highlighting the incredible value of the other path, the path to forgiveness and mercy. It's a call to choose, and to choose wisely.
So we end with this question to reflect on. The people of Al Hijr put their faith in houses carved from mountains. Today, maybe we put our faith in our technology, our wealth, our institutions. But Surah Al Hijr really challenges us to ask, what is truly permanent? It starts with the promise of a preserved message, and it ends by asking us to build our foundation not on something fleeting like clay or stone, but on that divine, enduring truth.